In a second, that looks like a good-sized plane came in and hit the World Trade Center from the other side.
Spencer was 11 when the attacks on the Twin Towers happened, and he came home from school that day, and he said, "This is like the bully bringing the fight to our backyard, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, I guess it really is." And he said, "Well, Mom, that's not right."
Spencer graduated from Olathe South High School in 2008.
It was a couple of weeks after he graduated that he called and he said, "Hey, where's my birth certificate? Because I've just joined the Army."
When Spencer deployed, he deployed in March. We knew fairly early on that he was flying some dangerous missions. And the Chinook is a heavy hauler aircraft, which means that it's about transporting troops and transporting materials into those zones and bringing them back out. Spencer was a door gunner, sat right behind the two pilots, and was typically carrying special operators.
The Taliban is taking responsibility for shooting down a U.S. helicopter. More than 30 people were killed, and there are reports this morning that most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We heard about a Chinook shot down, but we heard it was the wrong regiment. And over time, we'd convinced ourselves that it was not Spencer's helicopter, but we had kind of convinced ourselves, and that was in the morning.
You know, the longer the day went on, the better that was for me, because that meant that Spencer wasn't on that helicopter.
At 5 o'clock, the doorbell rang, and I walked up to the door, and Megan had followed me up from our den, and I looked out the keyhole, and there were the uniformed officers standing outside, and I just turned to her and I said, "Megan." And she collapsed to her knees. And I opened the door, and it's the message that they're obligated. "Are you the parents of Specialist Spencer C. Duncan?" I said, "Yes." And it said that the Department of Defense, Secretary of Defense regrets to inform you that your son has been killed.
There were total of 17 Navy SEALs on this aircraft. 15 of them were members of SEAL Team 6. It was the single-day largest loss of life in Afghanistan.
I guess a lot of people don't get to say goodbye, and we didn't get to say goodbye, of course, in the way I wanted to.
When they returned Spencer to us, several of his friends were really wanting to do something to honor him, and they called it Stand for Spencer. And that effort brought almost 10,000 people on the street between the airport where they returned him to the funeral home. Spencer C. Duncan Make It Count Foundation was formed shortly after Spencer died, because we knew that Spencer would want us to do something. For Megan, it's always been about education. The opportunity to help student veterans who come back from a deployment, and how do they get back into school. For me, it was finding organizations that were going to do something to help get homeless off the street and to really help veterans who are struggling with PTS.
Each year we give money to probably about 10 to 12 different organizations. We've raised over $400,000 in the last 6 years.
5K runs are a great opportunity for people to come together, to be able to participate in a sporting event and to do something, and we can honor Spencer.
Every detail that we have about the run has been thought out for a specific reason.
As people get started on the race, they run under this sign that says, "You're now entering the Boulevard of the Brave." 3.1 miles, 31 lost, and every 10th of a mile they encounter a soldier or a veteran holding one of the memorial signs. At the 3.1 mile mark, the last one that the runners will see is where you see Spencer's memorial.
To me, heartbeats now sound like the thud, thud, thud of a Chinook. It sounds like my son's heartbeat, and it sounds like freedom to me.